All right, good afternoon. We're going to call the meeting to order. First for roll call, you have myself, LJ Pizarro, Chief of Police. We've got John Burt, the Town Manager, also in attendance is Colin Kelly from the Department of Public Works, Town Engineer, Jeannie Vislowski, and I've asked Officer Kim Snyder to attend as well, who can offer some insight as to some of the issues we're going to be discussing today. Ma'am, your name?
Anna Troiano.
Anna Troiano, and we also have our one of our new community service officers with us today, who's going to just be observing and learning as well. So, many thanks for coming. The first order of business is a review of the minutes and approval. Entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I move.
It's been moved. I'll second it. And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Public communications, Jeannie, do we have any public communications to review?
No.
There's no public communications to review. Under old business, we have 2021-489, which is West Mystic Avenue and speeding concerns. Is that the topic you're here for?
I'm here for the second one, but we
Okay.
would also like to have the sensor that was on there on High Street.
Okay.
We haven't had that maybe in a while. I don't even remember one there, but
Okay.
that would be really helpful.
Sure. So the first order, we'll go over the old business. West Mystic Ave, is that what some of the callers are on for? Do we know?
I believe you're on.
Are any of the online participants here for West Mystic Avenue? Hearing none, we'll just go ahead and start looking at this. Jeannie, we're supposed to be reviewing the speed study, correct?
Yes, are we on West Mystic Avenue?
Yes. Yep.
Yes, I've received one report since our last meeting, showing at this point with the speed, notifying people of their speed. Those are the results. It is currently out there now, so there's more data being collected right now.
So for the, in case this wasn't captured, what we've learned is that we've done a speed study, that there is still the speed detecting device is out there. Based on the report that we received, West Mystic Avenue from the dates of July 13th until July 28th, it looks like that, according to this, the metrics that this utilizes, that the posted speed limit of 25 miles an hour, which has a 5 mile per hour tolerance, that there's a low enforcement rating. So for this period of time, it does appear that there was low enforcement, which would tell us that there were certainly some high flyers where there's a couple over, in this case, 50 miles an hour, 46 to 50 miles an hour, combined on north and southbound lanes. Certainly, I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at that. This was conducted by Officer Lucero.
Chief, those are the results prior to last meeting.
Okay.
I haven't gotten out any report since.
Okay, so in April, there was a medium, so it actually went down. Looks like there was less speeding violations during this period of time. Again, it's currently out there now, collecting data.
Yes, it is.
So we'll be interested to see where this goes. Jeannie, am I missing anything on this, or are we supposed to discuss anything else, or just review the
I
data?
know we tasked Public Works with just looking at some painting options, but we do not have any formal plan. Public Works is still working on it.
What was just conveyed by Jeannie Vislowski is that we have tasked Public Works to look at the roadway. They have not come up with a plan yet. That we were looking at having some markings and painting done of that road, which would narrow the perceived width of the road, which does help control some speeding. Colin, do you have any comments on that, or?
We have started looking at it. Just want to take a look at some of the intersections. One of the things they asked for was more crosswalks. Problem is, there are ramps on that road, but they're not ADA compliant. So if we put in a crosswalk, we have to put in the ADA compliant ramps along with that. So turns it into bigger impact on them.
Again, just to reiterate what the town engineer said is that they are currently looking at West Mystic Avenue, but there's a crosswalk request as well. Part of their analysis is to determine the compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act and how that interacts with those particular areas of the crosswalk. And it sounds like some of those are not ADA compliant. So they're looking at strategies to do that and still working on this. So anything else on West
I
Mystic
know
Avenue?
Laurel Holmes, who attended the last meeting, has been doing some research, and she was gonna email me just some photos of some crosswalk designs that she's found, and painting where it's an illusion that it's a speed bump, but it's flat. But she wasn't sure she'd be able to get to it today.
If we do get those, that correspondence from her, please, if we could
I'll
share it
forward
right
it
with
on to-
Colin
yep.
and he could take a look at it, see if it complies with MUTCD and if it's something that we might consider or not.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on the next item is under new business, 21-069, which is a request to install no parking signage on the west side of High Street between Route 1 and Academy Lane, and a three-way stop sign and crosswalk on High Street at its Borough Street intersection. We do have some photos. I believe we were given,
We received a letter earlier in the week.
right. We got a letter earlier this week that did contain photos and some correspondence in this from Pauline Reed, William Reed, Martha Lane, Nancy and Charles Perini, and Ann and Rick Gleason, look like the authors. And you're here as well on this topic?
Yes.
Okay,
It's actually my house that it directly affects.
okay. Since we have you here, let's certainly love to hear from you.
I'm at the bottom of Burroughs, my driveway's there, and then I'm at the crossroads of High Street is on either side, so I'm like at the fourth intersection, really. It's a historic district, that's
Sure.
why I bought there. I don't like signs in the historic district. I wouldn't want to see like no parking, no parking. If there's anything we can do on the road instead. I think Frederick Gleason sent something in. I think he might have. If he didn't, I have notes
This
from
is
him.
all I've received.
Okay, he
This
sent,
is, yeah, just these.
okay, I have a copy of something, but I'd like to read the points of what he
Sure.
said. I discussed it with him and as well as my direct neighbor and Neil Spillane, who is also affected. He's directly across the street.
Also on Burroughs or?
He's on High Street at the
Okay.
corner of Burroughs and High across from me. He doesn't think stop signs are a good idea. I think because that would mean more noise. Definitely not like a sensor. That would be, I know you could even hear them in your houses. I've been in people's houses where you can hear them. I think that's kind of drastic. If we tried to stop them from coming down High Street at all, on Google Maps, I'm sure you know, if someone types in from New York City, types in Mystic, they are instantly, anyone from that side, from
Yep.
the west, are
Yeah, they-
directed to exit
Yeah,
89.
you're going off Allen Street. Sure.
There's no sign that says downtown Mystic this way. People are hunting around. They go down Sandy Hollow, Edgecombe, Burroughs. They don't know how to get to Mystic. So a lot of times it directs you down Sandy Hollow and down High. So, and then when you leave, I did the reverse. It leads you, even though there is a sign right before High that says 95 straight up, which is great, they still take it right on High because Google says go on High, because I think it's a shorter way and Google
probably
goes by
is,
the
yeah.
short route.
Yeah, whatever algorithm it uses.
Yeah,
Are
I've
you-
been trying to communicate with them, but
Are you suggesting maybe additional signage there to direct the, because I do recall a few years ago, and
Oh.
maybe you may, there were some discussions about the state putting signs on Allen Street, the exit, to point people to Mystic that way, and there was kind of I think the local residents really
I
did not
know
want that to happen.
I
So
know,
it's kind of
but
that mixed bag.
Google is leading them that way. So it's kind of like what's happening now. And they're not, if they come from that way, they're not directed to exit 90. The other way from Boston
Sure,
did it.
yeah.
They go right to, it's like, depends on which way you're coming from, which exit it goes to. So instead of them hunting for where it is, it would be great if there was at least a small sign that said Mystic with an arrow straight when they got off the highway. Not like a welcome to Mystic sign, but just something to remind them to go straight so they don't go through the historic neighborhoods.
And that, we'd have to request that through DOT.
So you're
That's
saying a sign
simple.
leaving the
they
exit
get on-
89,
yeah.
sending them up Allen Street. A
Yeah.
sign there saying go Allen Street.
Also,
Sure,
I don't know if anything could be like not a through street at the entrance of Sandy Hollow, Edgecombe, Burrows, and Library. I guess you can't go down Library, right, from Allen Street because of their
Well,
rule.
So it says you can't, but
Yeah,
the same thing with
Yeah.
GPS.
yeah,
It tells
it leads you
people to
there.
turn down that, and so they're paying attention to this, and they don't read the sign.
And they're in a
they turn
hurry.
left and
They're
go
always
down.
like rushing around. So, I mean, those are easy things. It's not like, something crazy. It's just a sign, not a through street. It might cut down on a percentage of people. So the other way, going up from Main Street, it would be great if that said maybe not a through street. And I don't want anything in front of the church because I don't like blocking houses or churches with signs and people take pictures and, I don't like that. Maybe like on the right after the 95 sign. So when they're ready to take their right or they look, like, is this the right? Because everyone's very confused. Like, where do we go? I guess they don't see the 90 or pay attention to the 95 sign. They're paying attention to what Google says. If it said not a through street, there's a sign that says no parking as you turn, and it's a really dangerous turn. Like the, hill, curving hill to get up. There's a lot of accidents from cars parking on that hill. And I don't know if we can take away parking there on that side, just on the curb. The woman, I know people that have lived in like apartments and houses, their cars have been, the mirrors hanging off because people sideswipe them. It's crazy. People like, they're trying to get up the hill from downtown and then the hill to High Street. It's just, they're kind of like accelerating. I think that adds to the High Street to Academy Lane stop sign problem. They're trying to get up that hill and around. They're trying to get home. And then there's a stop sign over there and it's just too much for that corner. There's too much going on, the hill, the curve, traffic. It's just people I pick up pieces of cars all the time when I go out and walk downtown and pick up trash here and there. It's like, a piece of metal, a piece of this, that. It's crazy. So we just want something that's tastefully done in the neighborhood and helps us right from the start. So we don't have to deal with things within the street. We can just keep them off the street. It just seems like that's the root of the problem. I mean, maybe if we address that first and put a sensor on the street, then we can deal with the other things
When-
later.
When you say sensor, you mean the speed detecting or?
The one on West Mystic, I think that's,
So so the issue is twofold, the concern with speed. I'm looking at these photos. I'm gonna venture a guess and Officer Snyder was here. She could probably speak to this better than I can right now, but this weekend, I don't think there was much of a speeding problem on any of those roads because it was such parking was more the issue, right?
Yeah, it was just parking jams on all downtown and on High Street. I don't know if you saw some of us out giving tickets. on
no,
Saturday.
someone told me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I actually issued a bunch of tickets because people literally just parked basically where your house is.
I know,
and
I
they
heard.
couple up, and it was stripping it is.
Um,
But they were parking just in the middle of the lane, like there's no breakdown lane or sidewalk there, and they just parked in the middle of the road.
So on the
So-
west side,
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
because there's no curb. They park right on top of the
On people's
sidewalk.
yards or everything like that.
Well, we thought also, instead of signs sticking up in front of houses, putting either, there is a fire hydrant there. It's
Mhm.
supposed to be 25 feet from the hydrant. You could put fire lane where the 25 feet is and no one would park there, in yellow. Without getting like crazy like signs, you could just do it on the pavement instead. And mark, I don't know where the other hydrant is down that
You've
street.
probably seen some of that. Public Works did do some marking over
Yeah.
the last month or so.
Yes.
Gravel Street,
Pearl.
Pearl, yeah. a couple
Oh, the
other areas.
driveways?
Driveways, but
No
also to
parking
identify
areas,
no
too.
parking areas.
Making it more obvious on some no parking.
What did it
places.
look like? What was the marking?
It was just a yellow line.
Okay.
Instead of a white fog line, it was a yellow.
Well, that's
fog line.
good. I saw the triangle driveway. We don't have a lot of the driveway situations. I mean, there hasn't been that many.
No, but they were on,
excuse me, there are definitely some driveways that have chronic problems in those areas with it.
The lower ones, the lower streets. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, that would be great. Any yellow line, of course, will keep people away from either side. Right now, there's like a white line that goes along my side on the east side. It kind of looks like a bike lane to me. You know, I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be great if there was a bike lane? But I know you're concerned about parking, and everybody is. I don't know about dimensions and all of that, as far as like how the cars can fit or not fit. People park there anyway, even though it's a white line. Maybe if it was a yellow line, I don't know. I don't want to make everything yellow. Like, I mean, the granite curbing it's granite. And we don't want to like make everything yellow.
Well, that's part of why we were painting on the streets. We didn't want
Yeah,
to paint on the
totally.
granite.
The street, but not the, yeah,
Yeah, we are
That's-
avoiding that.
that's
yeah.
awesome. Those are just some things that I've talked about with the other neighbors. Not intrusive, smart things to do before you go ahead with other things. What do you think?
Before we get discussion, I should probably pick another guest too, to get all the input.
Yeah,
before we
sure.
discuss.
Do we
Tom's
have-
on first?
Tom, sorry.
Mr. Bradham?
Oh, yes, Tom Bradham, Mr. Bradham, you're on the phone or on the Zoom meeting. We'd certainly welcome any additional comments that you might have or anyone else does.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can, yep.
Great. Yeah, I just tuned in to listen to the meeting's proceedings and to support my neighbors on High Street and West Mystic Avenue. I live on Gravel Street, and I want to compliment you all at the meeting today for listening to the Gravel Street neighbors' concerns. And I do think the paint on the roadway, designating the driveways, the white triangles, and the yellow no parking paint in the no parking areas, particularly on the fire hydrants, and appropriate signage on Pearl Street has helped tremendously. And I'm not that familiar with the Route 1 High Street intersection, but I have talked to my neighbors about it and my wife, and she says it's absolutely horrible, the numbers of people that are parking on High Street, and that turn at Union Baptist is just horrible. And I think some of it is attributed to, and Mr. Burt knows my concern in this area about the short-term rentals in the area, because we have people that are coming and staying in downtown Mystic, and there is not enough off-street parking. So they do park. And I think that there are some short-term rentals in the High Street area, and the cars associated with those short-term rentals exacerbate the parking problem, because there is nowhere to park, and they park on inappropriate street sections. So I support Ms. Triano's concerns and the High Street neighbors' concerns. I read the information that was in the agenda packet, and I think Public Works did a great job on Gravel Street and on Pearl Street, and I think it's making a difference from what I understand. And I have seen a greater law enforcement presence, and I think that's discouraging people from illegal parking. I think we have and continue to have a real problem with the loading and unloading zones in downtown Mystic, and particularly on Gravel Street, and the amount of tractor trailers that park way beyond the loading zone area and cause traffic concerns. And I think having the community service officers on board and people walking around and helping, I understand merchants need their deliveries, but really coming on a Saturday afternoon is not an appropriate time. I think the town working with maybe the Downtown Merchants Association and the restaurants to kind of establish some standard delivery hours Monday through Friday, and preferably early in the morning. Like I mentioned about the street sweeping early in the morning would be beneficial for all concerned. But I want to thank you for your efforts and listening to us. And I think it has made a significant improvement. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it has been, we've seen some improvement. That's positive. That's good.
Still have that, if you want to check again.
Go ahead, John. I don't know. I can't read it.
Phone number, that ends in 7676. Did you want to participate in this discussion? Make sure they have full rights to. Yeah, that permission to talk. Okay,
All right.
Is that
Um,
all?
that's it.
Oh,
That's it.
God.
Officer Snyder, do you have any other, I know you had some insight as to what was going on and just kind of for the record, boy, it's got to be at least a month ago now. I went out with Officer Snyder probably a month ago, maybe back in July, right? In fact, GD Vislowski went with us. We went down there and looked at some areas. In fact, I think he even issued a ticket and talked to a business owner down there. So do you have any thoughts or any other comments on the two items that we talked about? I know we deal with this all the time, but.
Well, definitely this weekend was pretty crazy weekend with the art fest, so I think the overload of cars was just that, an overload. But I think that the markings, we were talking actually before the meeting started, that Public Works did downtown, I think it's great. And I think that it would be beneficial on High Street, and I also think it would be beneficial on the New London Road side between, where we were speaking,
talking about,
between Ashby and High Street, but on New London Road.
Oh.
There's same kind of thing, people couldn't get through because people park on both sides of the road, and so it's a problem. I think that as far as like a no parking side of the street, I think it would be better if it was the side where there's no curb and no sidewalk, which would be, I believe, if I'm thinking of your house correctly, across the street from you would be the side that needs to be no parking, like the church side of the road.
On the other side. I'm the east side.
Okay, so the other side is what you're talking about.
Whatever side. you
The west
think is
side of the
best.
room, the
Okay.
church is on the west side. of the
Yeah,
room.
The
you're on
church.
the west.
I'm on
Yeah.
the opposite side of the church.
Right.
You think the church side.
Well, I'm
You would
talking
know.
from Burroughs north. So from Burroughs towards the highway, that should just not be allowed any parking on the
Yes.
street there because
Yeah.
there's no curb, there's no
Oh, yeah.
breakdown lane, there's nothing. And
Yeah.
that's where a lot of the tickets that I gave out over the
Oh,
weekend
really?
are. So I think that would be the side that needs
Yeah,
to be
right, there's
nixed.
no sidewalk. on there.
I also think like the church side in front of the actual church, there is that block area for cars to park. As far as the other side of the road, it's not wide enough right there
And that's where
for
you
cars.
go up.
Right, so maybe
Crazy.
if we extended from the corner, maybe halfway up the hill.
Yeah,
Or 3/4 the way up the hill, no parking.
yeah.
And it could just be, an extra wide yellow
Dude,
strip.
And that's a
or
long
something.
Keep it low.
standing problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, it's just, who would want to park there anyway? It's crazy to park there,
Right.
So that would be, it just makes sense.
Right,
It's
so
a
I
good
think that
idea.
that would maybe be like a good starting
Mm.
point.
Mhm.
And hopefully that would
Yeah,
kind of mitigate it. And like after they painted some things, we're gonna go back down and maybe meet and like reevaluate a couple areas. So if that's something we need to do for your
Yeah.
section, we can certainly do that as well.
I don't know about that. I don't know, it's just me. I just like, I like my hitching posts and I like the historic feel of, that's why I'm there. I just love that. And to have the little triangles in the middle of the road, I didn't even know I was blocked in my driveway. Someone told me that you were there. I'm like, oh, I didn't.
Oh, so it was yours that I pulled into?
I think so.
Yeah.
With the oars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, great. I didn't know people patrolled here. So that was nice to know.
Yeah.
But that's never happened before where someone blocked me in. But yeah, it's all good. It sounds like these are good ideas. And if we start with like little signage maybe and all the little markings that you said would be beneficial, that's a good start. Instead of like jumping to like stop signs and, all of that.
And I think it's much more reasonable too for everyone involved to like start little.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. It might solve the problem.
We,
Can I just say something
Sure.
about the no parking areas? In order to have the no parking area enforceable, you need the parking signs. The yellow line can be an addition to it, but it can't be there by itself. You need the no parking sign.
In that curve.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
There's
just
already
one
one
sign in
there.
each area is
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there are a couple
either
of
end?
options. You can have no parking in the
Okay.
corner,
Yeah.
no parking with arrows. one on
Between the two
either end.
sides, yeah.
There's a
Okay.
number of
Can you
different
take a look at what would be the least intrusive?
Thank
I just, I do want to comment and I mentioned that myself and Officer Snyder went down there last month, but we also did that, myself and the town manager, as well as the public works director, went down to kind of take a look at where the markings were going. We looked at it on, not on boroughs or we did go down High Street, I think, but we didn't look at any of those markings, but this is, I know it's an important issue for the residents down there, and I will tell you, it gets a lot of time and attention from us in our capacities as well as Jeannie. If I told you that we get an email or correspondence daily on parking issues,
And they're almost always Mystic, yeah.
yeah, that's not an overestimate. That's a daily
Yeah.
basis. I'll get one, or the town manager will get one, or we'll each get one, and we're kind of switching them back and
Oh my
forth.
God.
But I do have to compliment our officers, in addition,
Thank you.
Officer Snyder, many others have been out there. We've gone down there and made it a high priority to enforce those, well, I can't tell you how many tickets we've written. I just
Oh.
I don't even know. I went down Saturday night myself. Obviously, the Mystic Art Fest was in town on the Stonington side, but we had all kinds of problems on our side as well. And one of the items that Officer Snyder alluded to is, I went down New London Road and I had trouble getting through. And, my wife and I were in our car going out to dinner. So we certainly are sympathetic to it. But I don't think it's, and Colin, you've been around a while too. I don't think we've ever seen it to the extent we have this summer. And I think
Well,
there's a
And
lot
it
of
could
factors.
be- it could be
Yeah.
temporary. We've had so many, I don't know if you know how many articles have been written about Mystic.
Oh, yeah, yeah, we
The
know.
Post, the Times, Forbes, Travel and Leisure, I mean, it's crazy, and Stonington. But, and COVID, and people want their day trips and here and there, and visits. It could be just, what's happening lately. It wasn't like this for me, living there 10 years before, it wasn't like this crazy. So hopefully it'll calm down and we'll be okay. And thank you for all your efforts. I mean, this is amazing. I love how you're like a team and you're working to help the neighborhoods in the town.
Thanks for saying
I
that.
appreciate
it.
your approach too. Some people could say, oh, no parking everywhere, so it's good to have,
That's
it's
not
good to have,
reasonable.
be able to communicate and dialogue it. Colin, in terms of the flow though from GPS, is there anything that you could think of that'd be allowed that would be helpful to dissuade a bit for people going through?
I've heard this Google Maps and thing quite a bit. It's come up, and I'm not sure if there's a way of getting that changed or not.
There is a process I've heard, but I don't know how it works.
I contacted them because it's the shortest way. It's the time, and they go to that one. There's a way of clicking on a certain route, flagging it, and then sending feedback back. And you can actually write a little letter back to them. There's no phone number. It's just, the routes, you point them out and you say why, and you give a reason why, and you give an explanation. So I've been doing that. And I'm waiting for their response. I don't know how else to do it.
Well, if you do hear something, please let us know.
Okay, I
because,
will.
We would look into that
Yeah.
mechanism.
Okay.
I'm with you. I kind of think the signs are the way to go, but again, I'm a little reluctant to advocate for that because I know there was such a pushback a few years ago with residents saying,
Well, in terms of near the intersection, there is an active town council resolution against it from years back.
okay.
So
and then
council would
maybe
have to override that, which would be a long process.
Against what?
A signage for downtown Mystic right anywhere near the intersection of exit 89. Because so many residents
Oh, I
came out
heard about
against it.
that.
So many residents came out against it.
But that was a long time ago, right?
4 or 5 years ago, maybe?
Oh,
More
not-
than that, it
not
was
that
before I
long.
got here, it was
Okay.
longer. And then they redid some signage 2-3 years ago. Do you remember, Cole? It was not long ago, they did it again. And some more people were complaining
Because
about
they
it.
want them to go to the Stonington one.
Yes.
But
And
with
people are
all
gonna
the,
come this way
this
anyways,
is a
I know.
new, it's sending people
It isn't
there.
gonna
Oh,
change.
It's just sending
However,
people there.
what I think
Small one. Just a
if we were
little,
way down Allen Street, maybe, if we were
Further
towards
down,
Route 1,
yeah.
not right by the
oh, that's a
exit.
good idea.
But it wouldn't capture those that are using, that are going.
Well, then you're gonna have the sign go through street. That could help.
Well,
before
is that
I
allowed?
don't
Like,
even know
what
if
can
we
we
can do
do?
that.
I'm not sure what the requirements, I'm not sure if that's actually an enforceable one.
Well,
Sorry.
if it's allowed is one thing, but yeah, if it's not enforceable, it might dissuade some people. You just look, see what's allowed.
We just have to make sure all the sign placements are actually dictated by the federal government.
Oh, wow.
And so we have to make sure we're following their rules and they have, if you want some interesting reading, go to the Federal Highway Administration and look for the MUTCD.
Okay. Because
And-
Google leaves them there too.
Yeah,
Understand.
And you would not believe how many rules and regulations there are
Wow.
for simple signs.
I bet. It's a scenic road. Does that count?
And that's why some people
Scenic
want to go
road.
down it.
Oh, maybe that's, yeah, right.
Are we ready for a motion?
Sure, yeah.
No, put this in the language that best matches it. I totally agree with Officer Snyder's recommendation. So from Route 1, moving north on High Street to mark no parking for halfway up the hill there with yellow striping on the road and appropriate signage, and knowing that we want the least, intrusive signage. And then from Burroughs Street on High Street, from Burroughs for the next segment, where there's no sidewalk on the west side, doing the same thing.
And I might,
As well as, let's also empower Colin that if he does find some signage that for routing, that could be helpful and allowed to authorize those signage.
you got all that, Jeannie?
I think so.
What I was also gonna, not to put in the motion, but maybe since Officer Snyder has got some insight into this, has seen where the problems
Right,
may
we can work
lie,
together.
feel free to confer with one another to see if that would help.
So we don't want
Okay.
to do
You got that motion?
I think so.
I'll
So,
second it.
Okay. And I'll talk to kids.
All right, so the motion carries.
It's approved.
Oh, great. So that's it?
That's
Oh,
it.
wow. Thank you. This is
Yeah, who said government works slow? huh?
productive.
Yeah.
This is great. Thank you.
But thanks for coming.
Could I
Thank you.
add that
Sure.
we make a motion to make an amendment to that, to add something on the New London Road section?
Yeah,
Between High and.
I said that, yes.
Okay.
That was in my motion. I
Sorry,
forgot
yes,
that.
sorry.
We're
And
revote
Nolan and Road.
with that change.
I,
I,
Thank you.
Where is that? Wait, where's Ashby again?
It's like the split street. If you're coming down towards downtown Midstate before it turns into West Main, New London curves off and goes down, like if you're gonna go down to the
Oh,
Oyster
right,
Club.
that's
And
crazy.
it's jagged
right
Yeah,
there.
that's like, right, yeah, okay.
and that's where the police chief almost had to get a shoehorn to squeeze in between two cars to get to the
Oh,
Oyster
I
Club.
bet that
So
was tight. Oh, my God. Well, he can park in my driveway if he wants, okay?
I'll remember that.
No way.
All right,
Thank you.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, thank you.
Great.
So, for, do we need to end this?
Thank you, everyone, for being on.
Um,
One second.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Have a good day.
take
Thank you.